This lessons man learned too late in life. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher, emperor of Rome, wrote his private reflections in what we now call meditations, offering timeless wisdom on living a meaningful life. Despite ruling one of the greatest empires in all of recorded history, he grappled with anxiety, with frustration, with the eternal search for purpose. His insights reveal profound lessons. Lessons that most men understand only after years upon years of struggle, only after decades have slipped through their fingers like sand. But why do we wait so long to learn what the ancients already knew? Today, we journey through 10 principles that Marcus Aurelius discovered, principles that could save you from a lifetime of regret. Lesson 1. You control only your thoughts and actions. Listen to these words carefully. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Most men waste years, entire decades, attempting to control circumstances beyond their influence. They worry about the opinions of others, about whether the harvest will be abundant or scarce, about the decisions of magistrates and rulers they will never meet. Why do we exhaust ourselves trying to control the uncontrollable? Marcus understood something that eludes most men until their hair turns gray, that your only absolute authority, your only true dominion, is over your own mind. Your response to events, not the events themselves, determines your experience of life. A merchant loses his cargo in a storm. One man curses the gods and falls into despair. Another sees opportunity to begin anew with greater wisdom. The storm was the same, but their responses created entirely different destinies. This distinction between what you can control and what you cannot is perhaps the most liberating realization a man can ever have. When did you last waste precious hours worrying about something completely beyond your power to change? Think about that. The Stoics of ancient Athens would gather in the painted stoa, the covered walkway, and debate this very principle. They called it the dichotomy of control. They would ask, what belongs to you? Your judgments, your impulses, your desires, your aversions. These are yours. Everything else, not yours. If this wisdom resonates with your soul, if you feel the weight of truth in these ancient words, share this teaching with a brother who needs to hear it. Someone in your life is struggling to control what cannot be controlled. Send them this message. And if you wish to journey deeper into the philosophy that guided emperors and freed slaves alike, press that subscribe marker. More lessons from the ancients await you. Lesson 2. Your time is limited. Stop living for tomorrow. Now, hear these haunting words. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. The tragedy is not that men die, but that they never truly live. They postpone joy. They delay authentic connection. They say to themselves, after I secure this next promotion, after I accumulate more silver, after I retire from my labors, then I will truly begin to live. But when does tomorrow ever arrive? Marcus, who faced death daily as emperor, who witnessed plague sweep through Rome, who lost children to disease, recognized that deferring life is the ultimate betrayal of oneself. Each moment, this very moment, is the only moment you truly possess. How many men have you known who spent their entire lives preparing to live, only to discover on their deathbed that life happened while they were making other plans? The gladiators in the Colosseum understood this truth better than most free men. Each time they entered the arena, they faced mortality directly. They could not promise themselves tomorrow, so they lived fully in the present moment. Those who learn this lesson late find themselves surrounded by regrets. Regrets for experiences never had, for words never spoken, for love never expressed. The ancient Romans had a saying, memento mori, Remember that you will die. This was not meant to bring darkness, but to illuminate the precious nature of each passing moment. Why do we live as though we have infinite time when we know with certainty that we do not? Lesson 3. Your perception creates your reality. Consider this profound teaching. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. External events possess no inherent quality. They are neutral, blank, waiting for your mind to paint them with meaning. A loss of employment, a betrayal by a friend. These become painful only through your interpretation. Does this mean we deny genuine hardship? No. But we recognize that between the stimulus and our response lies our power, our freedom, our capacity to choose what this event means. Two soldiers stand on the battlefield. Both witness the same defeat. One sees the end of everything. The other sees a lesson that will forge him into a wiser commander. The event was identical, but their perceptions created entirely different realities. Most men realize far too late that they have been torturing themselves, not with reality, but with their stories about reality. The ancient Stoics practiced an exercise they called turning the obstacle upside down when confronted with a difficulty. They would immediately ask, "How might this serve me? What gift lies hidden within this challenge?" This is not mere optimism. It is the recognition that your mind is the paintbrush and reality is the canvas. You decide what picture emerges. Character matters more than reputation. Marcus asks us to ponder this mystery. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Why is this so? Men sacrifice their integrity daily. They take soul-draining occupations. They suppress their authentic beliefs. They abandon their deepest values, all to maintain a favorable image in the eyes of others. But what are they building? Character is who you are when no one is watching. Reputation is merely what others think they know about you. One provides genuine self-respect and rests entirely within your control. The other is a shadow you will never catch, an illusion that shifts with every whisper and rumor. In the Forum of ancient Rome, politicians would perform elaborate displays of virtue to win votes. They would donate grain to the poor, not from genuine compassion, but to be seen as generous. Marcus, who possessed ultimate power, who could have shaped his reputation through decree, chose instead to focus on his character. He would ask himself each night, "What did I do today that was truly good? In what ways did I fail to live according to my principles?" This nightly examination, this honest accounting with oneself, builds character in the darkness where no reputation is formed. When you stand before the river Styx, when Charon the ferryman comes to collect you, what will matter? The opinions of people you barely knew, or the truth of who you actually were? Pause. Natural CTA at 10 minutes. These ancient teachings have the power to transform a man's entire existence. If someone you know is living for the approval of others, sacrificing their truth for the comfort of crowds, share this wisdom with them. Show them there is another way, the way of the Stoics. And join us on this journey by subscribing. We delve deeper into the philosophy that can set you free. Lesson 5. Anger and resentment. Poison only you. Listen to this warning from the Emperor. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? Holding anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The damage you inflict upon yourself through sustained rage far exceeds whatever harm initially provoked you. When you harbor resentment, when you replay the offense over and over in your mind, you grant your offender permanent residence in the temple of your consciousness. Is this not the ultimate victory for your enemy, that they can disturb your peace even in their absence? Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is not about becoming weak or passive. It is about freeing yourself from carrying hatred like a millstone around your neck. The ancient Stoics understood that anger is a form of temporary insanity. When you are angry, you are not thinking clearly. You make decisions you will regret. You speak words that cannot be unspoken, Marcus would remind himself. The best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Quote, if someone treats you with cruelty, and you respond with equal cruelty, have they not succeeded in transforming you into their own image? This lesson, learned too late, leaves men looking back across the decades at years wasted in anger that accomplished nothing except their own suffering. How much of your precious life force have you given to people who wronged you years ago? Are they worth this sacrifice? Lesson 6. Your obstacles are your opportunities. Now we come to perhaps the most revolutionary teaching. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle, every setback, every closed door contains seeds of equivalent or greater benefit. The challenge blocking your path forces you to develop new capabilities, to discover alternative routes you never would have explored. To become stronger than you were. Marcus understood that obstacles are not interruptions to your path. They are the path itself. Consider the great generals of Rome. Scipio Africanus faced Hannibal, one of the greatest military minds in history. This obstacle forced Scipio to become more innovative, more strategic, more adaptable. The very challenge that threatened to destroy him instead forged him into legend. Men who grasp this principle early transform every setback into a stepping stone. Every failure becomes a teacher. Every rejection becomes redirection towards something better suited to their nature. Those who learn this lesson late realize with bitter regret that they spent years, decades, avoiding the very difficulties that could have forged their greatest growth. They ran from the fire that would have purified them. They avoided the weight that would have strengthened them. The ancient practice of negative visualization taught Stoics to imagine losing everything they valued, not to become pessimistic, but to prepare their minds, so that when obstacles inevitably appeared, they were ready to transmute them into opportunities. What obstacle are you facing right now? Have you asked yourself, how is this serving me? What am I meant to learn? Who am I becoming through this challenge? Lesson 7. Simplicity brings freedom. The Emperor speaks to us across the centuries. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. The Emperor of Rome, surrounded by unimaginable wealth, by palaces and treasures beyond measure, understood that happiness requires very little. Why do men not believe this? They chase bigger estates, more impressive titles, fuller schedules. They mistake accumulation for achievement. They confuse busyness with importance. But what does all this acquisition bring? More possessions mean more things to maintain, more things to worry about losing, more things weighing down your spirit. Marcus recognized that contentment springs from internal alignment, not from external acquisition. Simplicity is not deprivation. It is liberation from the tyranny of endless wanting. The ancient Cynics, philosophers like Diogenes, took this principle to its extreme. Diogenes lived in a large ceramic jar, owned nothing but a cloak and a wooden bowl. When he saw a child drinking water from cupped hands, he threw away even his bowl, saying, "A child has beaten me in simplicity." When Alexander the Great, ruler of the known world, visited Diogenes and asked what he could give him, Diogenes replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." The man with nothing told the man with everything that he had nothing to offer. This is the freedom of simplicity. How much of what you own actually owns you? How many of your possessions possess you rather than the reverse? If these lessons from Marcus Aurelius are stirring something deep within you, if you feel the call to live more deliberately and more authentically, share this message with someone who needs liberation from the prison of endless wanting, and subscribe to continue this philosophical journey. The wisdom of the ancients has much more to teach us. Everyone is fighting their own battle. Marcus begins his day with this meditation. When you wake in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But they are like this because they cannot distinguish good from evil, while I have recognized the nature of both, the good as beautiful, and the bad as ugly, and the nature of the wrongdoer himself as akin to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, possessing a share of the divine. What profound compassion lives in these words. Marcus began many days acknowledging that he would encounter difficult people. Rather than being surprised or offended, he prepared himself with understanding. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. The merchant who was rude to you in the marketplace? Perhaps his child is sick with fever. The friend who failed to honor their commitment? Perhaps they are drowning in grief you cannot see. This understanding does not excuse harmful behavior, but it transforms your relationship with it. Judgment becomes curiosity. Frustration becomes empathy. Anger becomes compassion. The ancient practice of oikeiosis, the recognition of shared humanity, taught Stoics that all humans are connected. We are all branches of the same tree, members of the same cosmic city. When someone acts badly, they are sick. They suffer from ignorance about what truly matters. Would you become angry at a person suffering from fever? Or would you feel compassion? Men who learn this lesson late realize they wasted enormous energy taking things personally that were never about them, carrying grudges against people who were simply suffering. How different would your relationships be if you approached every interaction with the assumption that the other person is doing their best with the awareness they currently possess? Lesson 9. Your thoughts become your life. Now, these powerful words. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The quality of your life is determined entirely by the quality of your habitual thoughts. Marcus practiced rigorous mental discipline. He knew that unchecked thinking patterns create your experienced reality. A man who thinks constantly in terms of scarcity perceives lack everywhere, even in abundance. One who trains their mind toward gratitude discovers richness in even the simplest moments. A cup of water, the warmth of sunlight, the breath entering their lungs. Your thoughts are not random. They are patterns, grooves worn deep through repetition. Mental pathways you have walked so many times, they have become highways. Most men do not realize, until late, far too late, that they have been their own worst enemy, torturing themselves with decades of toxic self-talk. I am not good enough. I will fail. I am unworthy of love. Everyone judges me. These thoughts, repeated thousands of times, become the architecture of your reality. The ancient Stoics practiced prosoche, continuous attention, vigilance over their own thoughts. They would catch negative thought patterns early, examine them, and replace them with more truthful, more helpful thoughts. This is not positive thinking. This is truthful thinking. It is the discipline of not allowing your mind to lie to you. What stories are you telling yourself right now? Are they true? Are they helpful? Do they serve your highest good? You possess the power, right now, to begin changing the narrative, to start wearing new grooves, building new pathways. You must die to ego to truly live. Finally, Marcus offers us this meditation. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. The ego, that false self you have constructed, builds elaborate defenses. It demands validation. It fears criticism. It requires constant maintenance and protection. How exhausting this is. Marcus, despite holding absolute power, despite being worshipped as a living god in some provinces, practiced profound humility and gratitude. Surrendering your ego is not about losing yourself. It is about finding yourself, your true self, beneath all the masks and armor. When you stop defending your self-image, when you release the need to be right, to be admired, to be special, you become free to actually live. The ancient mystery schools taught that you must die before you die. The ego must be surrendered, dissolved, so that your true nature can emerge. This is perhaps the hardest lesson, and the one most men learn last, if they learn it at all. Many men reach the end of their lives, never having known their true selves. They spent every moment maintaining the character they were playing, the role they thought they should perform. But who are you beneath the titles? Beneath the achievements? Beneath the reputation? Strip away your position, your possessions, your accomplishments. What remains? That essential core. That is who you truly are. And paradoxically, when you discover this, when you die to ego, you find that you are more than you ever imagined. You are connected to something infinite, something eternal, the divine spark that Marcus spoke of, the fragment of universal reason that lives within you. Marcus Aurelius left us a manual for practical living. His lessons are not difficult to understand intellectually. A child could grasp the concepts, but they require humility to accept and discipline to practice daily. These insights cannot be learned from scrolls alone. They must be lived through experience. They must be tested in the fires of reality, forged in the struggles of daily existence. Yet awareness can save you years, decades of unnecessary suffering. The question is not whether you will encounter these lessons. You will. Life ensures that. The question is whether you will recognize them when they appear, whether you will have the wisdom to learn from them before precious time slips away. Marcus was 58 years old when death came for him. 58 years spent examining his own mind, wrestling with these very principles, trying to live with integrity despite the corrupting influence of absolute power. On his deathbed, he did not speak of his military victories, his political achievements, his vast empire. He spoke of living in accordance with nature, of maintaining equanimity, of treating others with justice and compassion. These were the measures of a life well lived. What will you measure your life by? The wisdom of the ancients is not ancient at all. It is eternal. It speaks to the unchanging core of human nature. It addresses the fundamental questions that every man must answer. You now possess knowledge that most men learn too late, if they learn it at all. The only question remaining is, what will you do with it? Will you dismiss these teachings and continue as before? Or will you begin today, right now, to live according to these principles? The choice, as Marcus would remind you, is yours alone. If this journey through the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius has moved you, if you feel called to live more deliberately, to examine your own thoughts, to become the philosopher of your own life, then share this message with every man who needs to hear it. Send it to your brothers, your sons, your fathers, and subscribe to walk this path with us. The ancient wisdom has infinite depth, and we have only begun to explore it. Join us